tell me about this brand that you started about 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Triathlonish.
Yeah, it's actually like a year ago. Actually, almost exactly a year ago, right before Kona last year.
Okay.
No, I left as editor-in-chief at Triathlete magazine last summer
Yeah.
because there were like a number of changes happening at the company. And
Yeah.
then I was like, well, what do I want to do? Obviously, I felt at the time, and it's kind of funny because I think everyone knows the same thing. I felt at the time there was a gap in analysis and news covering triathlon.
Mhm.
So I thought, I'll just start this newsletter and kind of see how it grows, go from there. Because I just felt like there was nobody really,
For sure.
covering it like now there's like a ton of newsletters and podcasts and
It's
there's a
there.
lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, not everything is very has quality to it. But so it's not that I really want to get into this, and maybe you cannot talk about it. But why didn't this happen within the Triathlete magazine? Why didn't you manage to convince them to have more of an online presence like you do today?
Oh, no, we did. Triathlete magazines is just, what's the word? The Not the mission, but the like the goal. The goal is different, right? It serves Triathlete serves the entire triathlon population of the US, which is like, I mean, it's not massive, it's 100,000 people. So obviously a lot of what you do is how to do your first triathlon, how to get in triathlon, training, workouts. That's just like that's part of the goal and the objective. And
Mhm.
some of what we did was cover pros, profiles,
Yeah.
news like that. It was just, and we did do it there. It just was less. And then last summer we ended the print magazine, and that's part of why it just seemed like there was, it was going in a different direction. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So what's next for this brand of yours? What's in the pipeline for, say, I don't know, 2024? Do you have anything exciting?
sure. Well, so triathlon's pretty small overall, and I think that's one of the things I've kind of come up like. It's just it is a small sport, and so there's not and lots of people have kind of come up against this. Like, there's not as much money as there should be in it.
Yeah,
But women's sports overall, there's a huge amount of money in that right now because like they're really really growing, and so I think the direction, kind of the thing we're playing with, is moving into like more general women's sports, and then having Triathlon-ish be a sub brand, be like focused on triathlon, but
yeah.
have more kind of general sports too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's true that triathlon is one of those sports I would put along with tennis and soccer that has, and again, it's a European perspective, so I'm not including the NBA in it, that has brought women's sports to more people watching it and more people being interested in it. I think those three sports, triathlon, tennis, and soccer, is a driving force behind women's sports in general. It's
Yeah, there's all kinds of stats. I mean, this is like what I like live in. Like, I spend a lot of time in these weeds. There's all kinds of stats this year with like women's sports and the numbers and the viewership and the investment.
it's
I live in
growing.
San Francisco, and it just came out that we're getting a WNBA team connected to the Warriors. So, it's all kinds of stuff like that.
Here you go. Okay, so that leads me to my next question. I read in I don't know if it was the last newsletter or maybe the one before, that you're talking about underlying economic fundamentals of long course mass participation that are changing.
Mhm.
What do you mean? Is there less triathlete today during Ironman than there were before?
Yeah, I think there's a few problems. Like, obviously, again, like I tend to speak very specifically about the US, and I know this is different in Europe and globally. But
Mm-hmm.
in the US, it's not that the participation numbers are down, it's that they're struggling to come back at a profitable way post pandemic.
Mm.
Um, a lot like, and maybe this is true down in LA, it's certainly true up here. It's true of like all the race directors I've spoken with. The costs have skyrocketed for local
Yes.
race directors, permitting has skyrocketed. Cities, the entire business model of mass participation events, running, cycling, triathlon, is kind of based on cities subsidizing you, right? Like free police costs, paying you, right? Like helping
Yeah.
you out.
Yeah.
Cities are not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Which makes
yeah,
sense, which I understand from their perspective.
yeah. I mean, they're partially like, especially like they're having a hard, like they also went through an economic shitstorm in the last few years, so they're just not doing that, and so it's really really hard to make money on a mid-sized
Yeah.
or small event. And people are signing up way later, which is really hard if you are a smaller mid-sized events because you don't have cash flow. There's a lot of deferrals.
But
Ironman is like the monster, right? And Ironman is still struggling with this too on like a larger scale. Like, that's why I don't know, maybe
the prices when you're an age grouper, the prices for races have also skyrocketed.
Yeah, but it's
Mainly expensive now.
but it's what's the word? It's like you're not like what am I trying to say? Like when you buy a hamburger at a restaurant, it's subsidized because like the government subsidizes me, right? Like the price of an Ironman is subsidized. Like you are not paying the full cost of what it actually costs to put on that event, given if you factor in like all the road closures, all the police, and so they need a certain number of people to sign up to make money, and they're not getting that number, which is why they've had to cancel so many events. So it's a problem.
But that's not a very positive.
No, it's not good.
What's the solution to this?
Yeah, I mean, this is why, like, if you're just wondering, like, this is why you're seeing, like, all these races go away in North America and to a degree in Europe, because people are trying to figure out what a new economic model is that makes sense, right? That's why you're seeing, like, maybe it's tying a pro race, like PTO is doing, right? Like, tying a pro race to, like, an age group festival. Maybe, like, there's another, that's part of the reason you're seeing all these races in, like the Middle East and like countries where they're heavily funding them, because it's like, well, maybe that'll help fund it. Like maybe like, so that people are trying different things right now to see like what's going to work.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why Andrew Messick had to go? I don't know how to put it. Had to go, was let go, was convinced to go. He decided to leave on his own because can we say that's kind of a failure from his side not to have thought about this before and do it better?
No, I mean, I think like I've criticized Andrew like a lot over the years, and but I think actually like they had a really hard time the last 3 years. Like think about it, right? Like think about the sheer quantity of money that they were holding liability on deferrals.
Because again, just to make it clear, because of the COVID situation.
Because of COVID, yeah. And they had to let go a ton of staff. They had to shut down their office. They they did it's just like it's like insane that they were able to stay in business if you think about it, right? So I don't think that's necessarily I don't think that's like on him. I think it's just that's the reality. And now I think that we're coming out of that. Like, yeah, for sure. And he'll tell you this, like it's time for some new ideas. Like we're gonna have to do some like experimenting and like trying new things. And so I think I have no idea whether he was forced out or not. I will just say he also talks about like they are looking externally. They're not looking for like a triathlon person. They're looking for somebody on like a global business scale who can come with like some new ideas, because they know that it is an uphill battle.
That's where he's from, right?
Basketball, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, they want like some other, like maybe they want like a tennis exec who's like done a triathlon for her. So like I'm making that up, but you know what I mean? Like they want somebody who can really like bring a fresh like perspective.
Yeah, but that's interesting. And I guess there are pros and cons with this, but the UTMB general manager, he's coming from the automobile motorsports, so there are
so stuff like that,
but cons also, because in trail running right now, the big criticism coming up is
they don't understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And when you know that the general manager is coming from like a motorsport, it's almost laughable, and that's definitely not a pro.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of what they're balancing over the next, because there's a very real possibility like they have to cut more races, like the finance. So I think they're trying to figure out what to do with that. So.
It's shocking how many races they're cutting.
Yeah,
I was shocked at the Canadian race in Mont Tremblant, which was an iconic one.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, to me, that was the realization that okay, something is really happening.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah, I mean, have you been there? It was great.
Yeah, no, I've done that race, and the city like loved it, and the city paid like the city paid everything. So yeah. It's a problem.
Okay. So let's talk about what happened in Nice. You were down there, correct?
Yeah.
Have you been to Nice before?
Yeah. I keep joking. I've been like 3 times this year for some reason. Okay. Yeah. But my husband raced 70.3 Worlds there in 2019. So so it was really nice to have seen it 4 years ago and see what, changed and what's different from when they did 70.3 Worlds there.
Okay. Do you think Sam Laidlow, I cannot not love the guy, not because he's French, especially because he hides it well, but he's really British.
I know.
Yeah, but what I like about him, and it's fun to me to watch, is that everybody's criticizing him. I mean, when I say everybody, but a lot of people are bashing it, and he does nothing in 2023 except winning the Worlds,
right?
And he's coming from a second place. He almost won Kona last year, and so he's doing great. when it matters the most. And he's very young. I think he's very mature. He's a very intelligent guy. It's hard for me not to like him. And he has a personality. He has, but do you think sports-wise, he can be the next Jan Frodeno? Do you think he can win multiple?
I mean, I guess, like, what do you mean by that? Like, Jan, like, the reason Jan was so great was because he was able to cover different distances, and like Sam's not going to do Olympics.
What I mean by that, what I mean by that is like one of the guys who can win several world championships.
Sure. I mean, potentially. I think, like, sure, obviously he's good enough, right? Like, I think the question is sort of just like, what happens, right? Like, when you've been doing a sport at that level since you were in like so young, there's always the question of if you're going to hit an injury or burnout point, or something's going to go wrong, and like, obviously his whole family's all in. I don't know if you saw his younger brother's been pulled out of school to also become a pro triathlete, coached by their dad. And that can work really, really well, but it can also implode at some point. And like,
right, but you can say that about anybody. Like, look at Gustav Iden. Like they were him and his friend Christian. They were on a trend. We were like, okay, the game is over. Those guys are going to win everything for the next few years. And it's not. I mean, hopefully they will come back. But
yeah, I mean, Gustav, obviously his mom died this year, and I think that's like he's struggling with that.
Sure.
But yeah, sure, anyone when they're young. But like, I don't know if you're that familiar with, like, in the U.S., right? You have like the Williams, like Tiger Woods, right? Like his dad did this to, like, I will make you a star from a young age, and it works. But then at some point, obviously, he crashes the car into a tree because he's like, it's too much. So it's just sort of a question, like, and you see that a lot of times with. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that would be the only concern with Sam, is kind of how it'll pan out in the long term.
Okay. What about Kona for the girls only? There's been a lot of debate about it, and you mentioned it a lot in your newsletter. You also sounded kind of annoyed at all the discussions, and why are people criticizing it so much? So why is that? Why are people angry about this?
Well, I think, look, like, it's a shitty situation where, like, you have to go to two different parts of the world, right? Like, if you are a business or a brand, like, that's a lot of money and it's rough. And if you are one of the people who, like, both significant others are in different races, like, it's an issue, right? Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But I guess I think what I was saying, like, I'm kind of tired of arguing about it, is that, like, it was the only solution. No one has offered another solution to the fact that the women need their own race. They need their own day. I mean, this is 2023. Like, that's how professional sports work, right? Like, I was talking to Chelsea Sodaro yesterday, and she's like, men don't play on the court in the middle of the women's US Open. Like, that's not a thing, right? Like,
no,
they get their own day. They get their own event.
Yeah, but you're talking about the tennis, for example. Or,
I was just like,
we can talk about the World Cup. It's kind of all happening in the same time. And
sure. So that's what I was saying. So basically, what I'm saying is that, like, I thought we had concluded that, like, the women need their own race and their own day. And I would love for that to be in the same location, right? Like, I'm saying, like, yes, it sucks they're in different locations. I would love for, like, the women to be one day, the men to be another day. I would love for them to be in the same, like, general sphere, like 2 weeks, a week apart, whatever, right? Like, all of us would love that.
Yeah. That
was not possible this year. Like, I think, like, too many people just keep being upset and saying, like, well, I wish that would happen, when it's been made very, very clear that was not an option this year. And so what I'm annoyed, or what I was, like, getting frustrated with, is, like, that is not an option. Your only option is to have them in two different locations, or to sacrifice the woman, right? Like, and too many people just keep, like, yelling that they wish there was a third option. And, like, there's not. Like, there's not. Yeah. So,
I mean, would sacrifice Kona be an option in the future?
You mean, like, not do Kona, like, right, like, not have it in Kona?
Well, and I think because, like you rightly said, it may not be sustainable, and it's not great for the sport. And we'll see the result in October, and the viewership on that only women's race. But to have it separated like that, like you're saying, is it? I understand what you're saying, and I agree. And of course, I'm a man, so you can always criticize my point of view. But even Sam Laidlow was saying it. He was like, well, let's see what happens. But I'm not sure it's such a great idea to have the women so not only far away, but like even in timing. I mean, it's like 2 weeks after, or it's not even close. Is that sustainable? Really?
Right. I mean, again, like there was no other option this year. This is the problem, right? Like you can, like everyone can complain about it, but no one's offered a solution. So like, yes, they are. Yes, they're very far apart. They're geographically and time wise. For sure, it would be better if they were closer together. For sure, that would help like feed each other viewership. Like, do I think this is going to stay the way? Like, do I think we're going to keep it like Nice and Kona? No. Like, obviously, we're going to get to these.
No, but
like,
do you
obviously,
think
they're going to
Kona
change.
disappear? Can Kona disappear?
Yeah, possibly, right? Like I think like I think what a lot of people have suggested, and do I know if Ironman's considering this? Like I don't know. But like for sure a lot of people have suggested like you do 2 days in Nice, you do the next year you do 2 days in Australia, the next year you do 2 days in like whatever, right? Like you move it around and you still have a race in Kona every 4 years or something, right? Like sure. Like is that a possibility? It's just a question at that point of like operational logistics.
But do you think it would be good for the sport? Because if I'm not mistaken, the 17.3 words in Nice, there was one day the woman, one day the man.
Yes.
Right? Do you think it would be good for the sport to not have it in Kona anymore? Do you think we should keep Kona at some point, maybe turn it into a regular Ironman?
Right. I mean, we're never going to like totally get rid. Like Kona is kind of the birth, right? And people made it very, very clear they were not ready to get rid of it this year, right? Like even the idea that we were only going to have one race there, people lost their shit this year. So like we're not emotionally ready to do that. But do I personally think we need to grow beyond Kona? Absolutely, right? Because Kona is very limiting. Kona has a very clear size cap. Kona has economic restrictions. Kona, right? Like it's very, very like it can only be so much. And I was talking to somebody and he phrased this really well. Like if the sport is only Kona, like people care more about that specific island than they do about triathlon, right? And like doing so it needs to grow beyond just being that one thing. That will take time, but it like has to.
Yeah. Do you think Nice was spectacular enough? Because I was thinking about it the other day. What do we like about Kona, especially if you live in Europe? Of course, it's the birth of the sport, so to speak. So it's mythical. But what's really amazing is the landscape. You know, you swim in crystal blue water, the lava layer. I mean, the lava fields. It's exotic to Europeans, you know, or even to most Americans. It's Hawaii. It's such an exotic destination. Do you think Nice has the potential to become as popular? I know that they don't plan on keeping it. Right. What I'm saying is, if they want to replace Kona, they will have to find locations that are.
They have to find iconic locations. They can't like pick Dallas, Texas, or something. Like it needs to be epic. I think. I mean, I'm a terrible judge of this because I live somewhere that everyone comes for vacation. Like I even go to Hawaii and I'm like, it's fine. So I'm terrible about this. But I mean, Nice was really great. I think everyone agreed. There were two things, right? I think everyone agreed the course was epic shots, like very, very pretty, very like really fucking hard. I think it was like on average, people were like age groupers were like an hour slower. Like it was hard. So I think it's like the course. The city is a big city, right? So it's not like like Kona, we take over the town, right? Like there are as many triathletes as residents. Nice, it's just like one of like 17 things happening that weekend. So that's just always going to be true. I know like Sam Laidlow's dad was like that's not as special. Like he wants it to be like a little town that we take over, like Roth.
Who?
Sam Laidlow's dad was talking about this. Because obviously, like you take over Roth and it feels different, right? It feels like a bigger deal. But part of me is like, I don't know, is that just like big fish, small pond? Like it just is what it is.
Okay. So what's going to happen with the women? What are your predictions? Do you think Daniela Ryf is going to do Frodeno? Like
I know, who knows, right? Daniela is so hard to predict. Like every time you think she's done, she goes and sets like a world course record best time or whatever. And last year, I think she had COVID is kind of what happened, even though she was like classy and didn't say that was what happened. So, I mean, Chelsea, I think, is coming around now and is definitely ready to go. And she definitely wants to defend. My money, I mean, I would also be like Kat Matthews is like, not happy about having missed last year. So, and we didn't see her last year, right? And then she's been, kind of quietly doing her thing and training.
And it's going to be very interesting. There's so many women that have such a good story. Anne Haug.
Anne Haug, like she wants to win this, right? Like she feels like she missed out on multiple titles because of COVID, right? Like she would have been the 2019, 20, I'm not saying she would have, but she thinks that
Sure.
right, that she would have had like a 3-time champion by now.
And she could have,
yeah.
she's really good. Yeah.
And like, I mean, Lucy is my husband's favorite because she always just like kills herself, right? Like she battles back so hard.
Mm-hmm. A little bit like Sam, she wants to be ahead.
Yeah.
And then it's whether they can catch her up or not.
And then you have like, I mean, everyone's talking about Taylor Knibb. Like, do I personally like think that, it's going to be an experiment? Like, definitely. But you can never, I think she's going to go like all out and then be like, oh shit, I have a whole marathon. But, she's obviously very, very good.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, she's never done an Ironman before. To be clear, this is going to be her first Ironman. She has
never done an Ironman before.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
That's why I think it's going to be, and she's very much a person who's like, well, we're just going to use this as a learning experience. So.
Yeah. But she's 25. She can do anything.
She can do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is Lionel Sanders done?
No, he's never done.
Well, wait. What do you mean?
Like,
never
he always
done.
says he's done.
He's going to continue to make those crazy videos. He's going to go wild on 17.3. But you and I know that, he's missing. He missed out on something. If that's what he's going to do, he wanted to be a bit better and win some serious Ironman, and if not even the words.
I don't know what he's going to do, right? I don't think Lionel knows what he's going to do. So to try and predict what he's going to do would be
he's not even going to do. He doesn't.
He doesn't know. Last year I actually I talked to him. Like I actually thought he really seemed like a lot more mature last year. Okay. And then like he had a really bad Kona, and he had a kid. Like whatever. It was like a lot of things happened. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. Who knows?
I mean, we're gonna miss him when he goes, right?
He's not gonna leave soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam Long. When Sam Long emerged, I was like, this is the new American star. It's not happening.
Like, what do you mean, at a Ironman level, or like he's just not breaking through at a world level?
Yeah.
I mean, he did well at the PTO races this year, like decent, right? Like, I mean, hitting better than some people that went on and won.
Okay, but I mean, sure, this is entertaining, and we're going to talk about the PTO after that. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but what matters to me is the words, whether it's 17.3 or full distance. And he's not even showing up.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. I mean, obviously this year he had a kid, so I don't really want to speak to like, you have a baby, like things happen. Last year he got a bad penalty at 70.3 Worlds. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? Like I like him. I think he's growing. I think he's like learning. I think going to Europe last year, he learned like a lot of people, like a lot of Americans, we struggle to race in Europe, like time change, food differences, different style of racing. It's a very different style.
Mark Allen never struggled.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did it first and then he like came around. It's just like, it's common. It's just like obviously some people are better at it and some aren't. So I don't know. Sam learned a lot last year. We'll see like how he kind of bounces back now.
But do you think he has the potential to become one of the greatest modern Americans?
Who knows? Obviously Rudy is like kind of the top American right now for sure.
He's French.
I know. He always says, I mean, he lived by me in Boulder, so he like did the local race in Boulder. So it's not that French. Like
I love that guy. And I mean, in Nice, I was actually surprised. I was happy for his sports, but I was a bit disappointed because I was expecting much more on the bike. Good job on the other ones following him, but he's a master of the course.
He is a master of the course. Yeah, I think Magnus just like stayed in his line for as long as possible. So
yeah, Magnus was pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay, Gwen Jorgensen. What's going on with her? Can she still make the Olympic team? Or is it over?
I mean, technically, yes. There's one more race. Do I think it's going to happen?
That's an amazing story, right?
Yeah. So there is, the US has one more automatic qualifying race in the spring. Okay. It hasn't been announced what it's going to be yet, but it'll probably be Yokohama, like one of the big WTCS early. And basically you have to be a podium there and then you will auto qualify. So could she be a podium there? Like, sure. Is it like probably? Like probably not, right? Like probably it'll be like Keys, the Ferris, or Taylor Spivey. If she doesn't do that, it goes to selection and then like a committee picks. And I don't see a committee picking her because she's the 8th American right now. And she hasn't and I'm not like obviously like I'm not saying like, I'm not like trying to hate on Gwen, right? Like obviously she's like one of the best American women ever. Like of course.
Yeah.
But there are like very specific criteria and like in the US, like, they don't like we're very specific about how we have to pick our Olympic teams. Like we don't do it kind of just like arbitrary, because like then that opens you up to legal cases, right?
Yeah.
So they have to follow these, like, and the specific guidelines are about like podiums in the WTCS races, like potential to medal, like ability. And she just, there's too many people ahead of her right now. So, but she could have podium. But if she gets her automatic spot, then that's that. So
she could be a good captain, though.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. Isn't it a thing in here? No,
not like, I don't think so.
Okay, like a moral,
Oh yeah, like I don't think that's. I think we pick 3 women and 1 alternate is usually what we do. So.
No, but someone who doesn't race, but someone who's there to coach them.
I don't know if we do that. That's like.
But do you think that would be a good idea because of who she is and what she's done?
That kind of role usually depends more on like how you get along with everybody.
It's political. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So, what do you think makes PTO so successful? And when I say that, I was expecting Challenge to take over and be more present. And I think Challenge, I don't know, my feeling is it's slowly fading and nobody really watches it. I mean, people race it, but you don't really watch it on television. But PTO,
they don't have it on television, do they?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but that's also what makes a brand in triathlon today, right? And that's why Ironman is also staying where they are. I think it's because they manage to have that live, which is very well done. There's a bit of too many ads, but aside from Hoka, but aside from that, it's pretty well done. Do you think that's the secret? That's the recipe that PTO has applied and is doing pretty well?
I mean, PTO is succeeding because they have a shit ton of money. Like that's like one of the big questions.
Guys, who are they?
There's a couple of different funders. Like the initial funder was Mike Moritz, who is, let me Google him. He's one of like the wealthiest people in the world. He is like a Welsh, used to be in media and then started a VC firm because he used to report on finances.
Is he American?
He's Welsh. He's Scottish. He lives in San Francisco now because VC, a lot of VC guys. And then, so he was the initial funder. I think it was like 10, I don't know. I estimated it around 10 million the first time. And then they went out for another round this past year. I think he put in again. And then there was like 2 more funders, but they're VC firms that like want to get in the sports space. The problem is they went out for a round this last time. And this isn't like a secret, like they said, and they basically had to show that they were going to like get their costs under control, which is why they did some of the like cutting back on prize money and stuff and like didn't have the Collins Cup. The next, like once, if they run out of money again before they're making money and they go out for another round, say in 3 years, like basically people are going to be like, hey, what's your plan, right? Like they're going to need to show that they're making money by the next time they go for another round.
You think they're making money?
No, they're not making money. Like, no, like that's not a secret either, right? Like they're not, like they're not. Their plan, they have a plan that's like gonna, that's like their plan to profitability, right? Like that's like kind of what they went out to funders with this year, and that's like what they're hoping to do in the next 3 to 5 years.
But how?
Right, that's the. They think they're all gonna make it on broadcast deals, and then some sponsor deals, and then obviously they're starting those like mass age group races next year with World Tri. But I mean, we just talked about how the economics of that are rough. So,
but it's a great show. They're putting a great show. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and that's why they get all the best athletes, and that's why they're able to do everything. But it's just I'm like nervous, basically, about what happens in 5 years. I mean, like everyone says like, yeah, but Super League is the same way, except Super League has a very self-contained model, and they make a lot. No, but like the point is like everyone was like, oh, they're also going to run out of money, and they didn't. But Super League actually has a business model that like it's already profitable, so there's a difference anyway.
Yeah, but it's Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. But again, it's really nice to read you. You're really good at what you do. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, and thanks for chatting. I'm always happy to go, deep in the weeds on triathlon. So.
Okay. So we should do that again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. See you in Kona.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Yeah.